Sources reported that Aisha used to breastfeed the men and teenage boys whenever they wanted to enter her house. In Sahih Muslim hadith number 1453d, we find Aisha suckling a young boy who used to enter her house.
I said, hold up, wait a minute.
And in the commentary for Sahih Muslim called Fath al-Mun'im Sharh Sahih Muslim by Musa Shaheen Lashin on page 622, we find Aisha suckling a young boy.
Shut your mouth, you muqallid, jahil, murakkib, animal, sectarian freak.
A mature boy will enter upon you, it is with a ya and a far, and it is the one who is close to puberty but has not yet reached puberty, and its plural is Afa, and it has become Afa and Yafu, and it is a young man. Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, used to think that breastfeeding an adult makes him forbidden, and she actually breastfed a boy, and he used to enter upon her, and the rest of the mothers of the believers denied that, as is evident from the 12th and 13th narrations. By Allah, my soul does not like to see me a boy who has become independent of breastfeeding, meaning he has passed 2 years. And breastfed after passing them, meaning my soul does not like to breastfeed a boy who has become independent of breastfeeding because he has eaten food, nor. Which Aisha wasn't happy with breastfeeding the boy, and it was a boy that hasn't reached puberty, not a young man. He admitted it himself that it was a young boy, but nothing says it was direct suckling.
But also in Tafsir al-Tahrir wa Tanwir by Ibn Ashur, volume 4 on page 297, saying if Aisha wanted a man to enter her house, she used to breastfeed him. And of course, this is by the permission of the Messenger of Allah, the cuckold himself.
Well, he forgot to translate using the hijab as coverage for the body, which means it wasn't direct breastfeeding.
But also in Al-Furuq by Shihab ad-Din al-Qurafi, volume 3 on page 386, we can read that Aisha suckled a grown man, so he became unlawful for her. Modern-day embarrassed Muslims like Sister Farida claim that adult breastfeeding means a woman pours milk from a breast into a cup. Then for the stranger who wants to enter her house must drink 5 cups of milk on 5 different days to complete the sunnah of Muhammad, i.e. the adult suckling business of their false prophet. But Muslims among themselves, they know it's a lie. It's pure deception. And they use a rejected hadith from a known liar and fabricator called Al-Waqidi, whose hadith are all rejected. Because their religion is so embarrassing for any human being today, Muslims trying to fix this disaster by deceiving the non-Arabic speaking Muslims and the Western world about the fact that adult breastfeeding is only called breastfeeding because an adult man must put his lips on the nipples of the Muslim ladies to get 5 suckling on 5 different days to become mahram. Such a man is then not allowed to be sexually attracted to such a woman anymore. Let us see what the Imams and Shuyukh said and how they explained it and admit among themselves what adult breastfeeding truly means in Islam.
وإلا احنا كلنا بنطلع من البهايم.
ماذا ترى في شأنه؟ فقال ارضعيه 5 رضعات فيكون ابنك بالرضاعة، فكانت تراه ابنا من الرضاعة. الحافظ ابن عبد البر الأحاديث الواردة في تبني سالم، ثم قال صفة رضاع الكبير أن يحلب له اللبن ويسقاه، فأما أن تلقمه المرأة ثديها فلا ينبغي عند أحد من العلماء. لفظ الرضاع أهو بيطلق عادي جدا في اللغة، سواء كان على الرضاع بواسطة التقام الثدي أو شرب لبن الأم في إناء أو في مصعد. ثم يؤكد ذلك ما رواه ابن سعد عن الواقدي عن محمد ابن عبد الله ابن أخي الزهري عن أبيه قال كانت سهلة تحلب في إناء قدر رضعة فيشربه سالم في كل يوم حتى مضت 5 أيام، فكان بعد ذلك يدخل عليها وهي حاسرة، رخصة من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لسهلة. ورغم ضعف هذه الرواية إلا أننا نفهم منها أن الرضاع في اللغة في اللسان العربي يطلق على شرب لبن الأم في مصعد مثل الزجاجة اللي بنضع فيها الآن اللبن للأطفال. فنقدر نستفيد من هذه الرواية الضعيفة المعنى اللغوي لغوي للرضاعة، إنها في لسان العرب بتطلق عادي جدا على شرب اللبن في إناء. ضعف هذه الرواية لكن يؤيدها حديث آخر صحيح، وهو قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: لأن يطعن في رأس أحدكم بمخيط من حديد خير له من أن يمس امرأة لا تحل له. يؤيدها علماء اللغة والفقه كالإمام الشافعي، وكذلك الإمام أبي حنيفة اللي قالوا زي ما واضح على الشاشة. قال الشافعي: الوجور اللي هو صب اللبن في حلقه بدون التقام الثدي أو بواسطة الإناء يعني كالرضاع. وكذلك الإمام أبي حنيفة قال: وهذا موجود في الوجور، ولقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في سالم: أرضعيه 5 يحرم بهن عليك. ومعلوم أنه لم يرد ارتضاعه من الثدي. معلوم أنه لم يرد ارتضاعه من الثدي، ما كانش يقصد التقام الثدي خالص بتحريمه عليه، فثبت أنه أراد الوجوب. عدم وجود ولو رواية واحدة حتى ضعيفة بمباشرة ثدي المرضعة، ولا رواية واحدة حتى فقط تصف طريقة الرضاعة. إذا يبقى ناخد بالأصل، وهو حرمة مجرد النظر إلى الأجنبية أو مسها ببعض الأعضاء. حكم إرضاع الكبير عند غالبية الصحابة.
Al-Albani will explain what you must do in certain situations.
زوجان نصرانيان عاشا برهة من الزمن نصارى، وهم ليس عندهم مثل ما عندنا من الآداب الإسلامية، فأسلما كلاهما، ولهم أو للزوج أخ شقيق، ومعتادين دون يعيشوا في بيت واحد، وأخو الزوج يدخل على زوجته وهي لا تتعجب منه. بعد هذا الإسلام قد يصاب الزوج نفسه بحرج من حجب زوجته عن زوجته التي هي أخت ذلك الرجل الذي لا يزال في نصرانيته. فهنا ممكن الآن الاستفادة من حادثة سالم مولى أبي حذيفة الذي أرضعته زوجة أبي حذيفة، فيمكن إجراء عملية الإرضاع من هذا الزوج من زوجته لأخيه، فيصبح هذا الأخ ابنا للزوجة في الرضاعة، فيكون في هذا مخرج إرضاع الكبير، وإن كان الأصل أنه لا يؤثر، ولكن ما دام أن الشارع الحكيم أجرى تلك القصة وأمر الزوج بأن ترضعه، وإن تحفظت هي وقالت إنه رجل فأجابها بأنه يعلم أنه رجل، لكن هذا حكم الله، أرضعيه تحرمي عليه. فهنا دخل شيء من لبن تلك المرأة إلى جوف هذا الرجل، فهنا في عامل مادي، هذا ممكن أن يكون له تأثير في
The classical Muslim scholars unanimously agreed that even virgins can produce milk.
Rob Christian actually proved something hilarious. Though Aisha was 9 when she married the Prophet, at that time she would be at least 11 or 12-year-old. She was able to bring milk from her body. Wow, Rob Christian. Which scientist said a girl of 9-year-old to 12-year-old can bring milk from her body? If it was possible then, Aisha was mature enough to get married to the Prophet. So the argument of Aisha as a little baby has ended.
Come here, let me slap you. Come here, let me slap you. Yeah, come to London and let me slap your face.
The concept of nask, abrogation, in Islamic jurisprudence is a complex and nuanced topic that deals with how certain rulings in the Quran and Sunnah may be replaced or modified over time. Here's a deeper explanation. What is nask? Nask refers to the process by which a legal ruling or text, usually from the Quran or Sunnah, is abrogated or superseded by a subsequent ruling or text. The idea is that as circumstances and the needs of the Muslim community evolved, certain earlier rulings were replaced by new ones that were more suitable for the new context. This concept is recognized by most Islamic scholars, although the extent and application of nask can vary among different schools of thought. Types of nask in detail. 1. Abrogation of the Quran by the Quran. This is when one verse of the Quran is abrogated or replaced by another verse. Example. The verse on the prohibition of alcohol was revealed in stages. Initially, the Quran discouraged alcohol consumption, but later verses completely prohibited it. The earlier verses were thus abrogated by the later ones. 2. Abrogation of the Sunnah by the Sunnah. In this case, one hadith, saying or action of the Prophet Muhammad is abrogated by a later hadith. Example. The Prophet Muhammad initially allowed visiting graves, but later discouraged it, only to eventually permit it again under certain conditions. Each ruling was appropriate to the specific context in which it was given. 3. Abrogation of the Quran by the Sunnah. This type involves a hadith that abrogates a ruling found in the Quran. This is more controversial and less commonly accepted. Some scholars argue that only the Quran can abrogate the Quran, while others believe that the Sunnah, which is also considered a divine revelation in Islam, can sometimes abrogate a Quranic verse. Example. There are debates about whether certain hadiths that modify the punishment for theft or adultery might abrogate the Quranic prescriptions for these punishments. 4. Abrogation of the Sunnah by the Quran. Here, a Quranic verse supersedes a ruling found in the Sunnah. Example. Some rulings in the hadith regarding fasting, prayer, or charity might have been abrogated by later Quranic verses that provided more detailed or different instructions. Importance of Naskh. Naskh is a significant concept because it helps scholars and jurists understand how to apply Islamic law in a way that is consistent with the principles of the religion while also adapting to changing circumstances. The recognition of Naskh allows for the evolution of Islamic jurisprudence and provides a method for resolving apparent contradictions within the Quran and Sunnah. Debate and interpretation. Majority view, Jumhur, the majority of scholars accept the concept of Naskh and recognize its importance in interpreting Islamic law. They believe that it is a necessary tool for understanding the progressive revelation of the Quran and the Sunnah. Minority view. Some scholars, especially from early Islamic history, have been more skeptical of Naskh, particularly the idea of the Quran being abrogated by the Sunnah. They argue for a more restricted application of the concept, emphasizing that the Quran should primarily be interpreted in a way that harmonizes all verses without resorting to abrogation. Practical application. In practice, scholars use a variety of methods to determine whether Naskh has occurred, including studying the chronological order of the revelations, the context in which they were revealed, and the specific language used in the texts. The identification of Naskh is crucial for deriving rulings that are applicable to the modern world. Understanding Naskh helps Muslims and scholars navigate the complexities of Islamic law, ensuring that the application of Sharia remains faithful to its original principles while also being relevant to contemporary issues.
Scratch your head from now on and think about, should I stay a Muslim in 2024? Read with me, guys. Nothing of our revelation, even a single verse, do we abrogate or cause be forgotten, but we bring in place one better. So Allah's words are not good enough. He needs to improve his own words. Allah is not a very good, perfect God, brother. Or like thereof, or similar, in other words. Chapter 2, Ayah 106.
In the context of Quran 2, 106, one better thereof, Khairan mina in Arabic means a replacement that is superior, more beneficial, or more suitable. In other words, when Allah substitutes or abrogates a verse, He replaces it with 1. A better guidance, 2. A clearer understanding, 3. A more comprehensive regulation, 4. A more suitable instruction for the changing circumstances. This phrase emphasizes Allah's wisdom and benevolence in revealing the Quran, ensuring that His guidance is always optimal for humanity. Scholars interpret one better thereof in various ways, including 1. Replacement with a more specific or detailed instruction. 2. Substitution with a verse that addresses a broader context. 3. Abrogation of a temporary ruling with a more permanent one. 4. Clarification of an ambiguous or unclear passage. The concept of one better thereof reinforces the Quran's message of 1. Divine wisdom. 2. Progressive revelation. 3. Adaptability to changing circumstances. 4. Perfection and completeness.
Commentators of the Quran said, so guys, Allah needs commentators to explain His Quran because Allah is not clear as He claimed to be. That's another contradiction for you. The idolaters said, guys, the family of Muhammad, these are the family and the tribe of Muhammad, the pagans of Mecca. Okay? Do you not see that Muhammad commands his companions with something and then forbids them from the same and commands them to do the exact opposite? So even the family of Muhammad noticed, the tribe of Muhammad noticed, this guy is an idiot. He claims to be a prophet, yet he keeps changing his mind and gives them different commands. Doesn't make any sense. If you are a consistent prophet with worshipping a consistent God, your message should be the same, not changing every second. And the following day he retracts it.
Emotional, damn it!
You guys, we're talking here about the family and tribe of Muhammad who are saying this. Right? One day Muhammad says something and the following day he retracts. Only us, 1400 years later, not only Arab Christian or you brothers and sisters in the chat, even the family of Muhammad noticed this guy is false prophet, a self-proclaimed prophet, and with his man-made Quran claiming that's divine inspiration from God. You're a liar, you're a scammer. It's a speech that contradicts itself. You see it? The Quran is a speech that contradicts itself. So Muhammad came with the solution. And what is that solution, brother? What is that solution for this contradiction? Quranic ayahs contradicting other ayahs? Well, the solution is abrogation, brother. Muhammad came with a solution, and the solution was abrogation. But actually bearing himself a reason for it to come down, and also, do we abrogate a cause to be clear or the like of it? Chapter 16, ayah 106 as well. Question mark for you. And we have another person called Abdul Qahir al-Baghdadi. He said there are only 66 ayahs that are abrogated inside the Quran. Ibn Barakat said there are 210 ayahs abrogated. And Imam Ibn Jawzi himself, who came later, said there are 247 ayahs that are abrogated. He made it even more in 62 different chapters. Imagine, Imam Ibn Jawzi, and this is his book that I'm reading from, he said Imam Ibn Jawzi said it's on the screen, there are 240 abrogated verses in the Quran.
How do we know Imam Ibn Jawzi wasn't even sure of the abrogated verses? Just as Ibn al-Jawzi was distinguished from other authors of abrogation by listing multiple chains of transmission, he was also distinguished from them by classifying the suras without mentioning the number of verses at the beginning. Contrary to what his predecessors did, after brevity and limitation and leaving out what is not paid attention to from weak statements, we see that Ibn al-Jawzi is the author who most cited the incidents of abrogation, although he is the least accepting of them. The number of cases in which abrogation was said by the predecessors. Ibn al-Jawzi is as follows. According to Ibn Hazm al-Ansari 214 cases. Abu Jafar al-Nahas 134 cases. According to Ibn Salama 213 cases. According to Maki ibn Abi Talib 200 cases. According to Abd al-Qahir al-Baghdadi 66 cases. According to Ibn Barakat 210 cases. According to Ibn al-Jawzi 247 cases in 62 surahs, and this, if it indicates anything, indicates his sincere keenness to uncover the cover of some interpreters, who did not understand the meaning of abrogation and its reality, so they said that what was not abrogated was abrogated. Evidence. Ibn al-Jawzi did not care about the previous books on abrogation if they were devoid of and traces, or were merely sayings and stories, although some of them were known to him at the time he composed this book, such as the book of Hibat Allah ibn Salama. During his review of the issues of abrogation, the author chooses to include it in a small number of verses, and specifically he only said that abrogation occurred in 22 incidents, while he sees the rulings in about 205 incidents, and in the remaining verses he took a neutral position.
For me, my hummus. Yeah. This ayah in the last ayah, ayah 6 of this chapter, it's a very tiny chapter as you noticed, only 6 verses. That last ayah, guys, is abrogated. For you, your hummus, for me, my falafel. For you, your salad, for me, my kebab. That ayah. In the bottom it says, وَهَذِهِ الْآيَةِ مَنْسُوخَةٌ بِآيَةِ السَّيْفِ. And this ayah, لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ, is abrogated, mansukha, abrogated by the ayah of the sword. What is the ayah of the sword? It's clearly chapter 9, ayah 5. Okay? For the people who do not know, ayat as-sayf, or the ayah, the verse of the sword, when you hear something called the verse of the swords, is always chapter 9, ayah 5. Clearly chapter 9, Surah At-Tawbah, ayah 5. Right? Abrogated by chapter 9, ayah 5. Rob, can you give us a translation? Sure. If we copy this part.
As we are not surprised, half translation Rob Christian give always. Let's start. And I am not a worshipper of what you worship in the future, and you are not worshippers of what I worship in the future. See Al-Bukhari 8733, translation of the chapter. This is addressed to those whom Allah has already known will not believe. And his saying, what I worship, means, whom do I worship, but he mentioned it to contrast, what you worship. The reason for the repetition, most of the scholars of meaning said, it is that the Quran was revealed in the language of the Arabs, and according to their metaphorical speech, and from their schools of thought as repetition, intending emphasis and understanding, just as from their schools of thought as abbreviation intending to lighten and brevity. Al-Qutabi said, the repetition of speech is to repeat the time, and that is because they said, if it pleases you that we enter your religion for a year, then enter our religion for a year, so this surah was revealed. For you is your religion polytheism, and for me is my religion. Al-Farah said in Ma'ani al-Quran 3297, and he did not say my religion, because the verses are with the letter, none, so the letter, ya, was deleted, as he said, guide, and heal. Islam, Ibn Kathir read, Nafi, and Haus, Wali, with a fatha on the ya. The others read it with a sukun, and this verse is abrogated by the verse of the sword, and his saying, and this verse is abrogated by the verse of the sword. This was transmitted from Ibn Abbas, and this verse does not contradict the verse of the sword, so there is no room to say that it was abrogated, because combining them is possible, and one does not resort to saying that it was abrogated except after it is impossible to combine the two verses. The meaning of the verse, "To you be your religion," is, "So never abandon it, because it has been sealed upon your hearts, and to me is my religion which I will never abandon." This is because the polytheists, as mentioned above, asked the messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, to worship their gods for a year and to worship his God for a year, so the surah was revealed to explain their situation and to make the messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, despair of the belief of specific individuals and not to have any hope in their belief. See Tafsir al-Tabari, 3330-331, al-Nasik wa al-Mansuk by al-Baghdadi, page 161-162 with commentary. See also 332 commentary 1, which means most scholars agreed it wasn't abrogated. Firstly, we have to start with different kinds of abrogation. Naskh hukm. This is when the ruling or law of a verse is abrogated, but the verse itself remains in the Quran. Second one, Naskh al-Tilawa. This is when both recitation and ruling of the verse are abrogated. In this case the verse has believed to have been part of the Quran's revelation but was later removed from the Quranic text and is no longer recited. For the abrogated verses that were removed, it was removed by Allah himself through divine process. Like verses of stoning, adult breastfeeding and Adam descendants. And most abrogated verses are caused through situations and conditions. It was the Prophet himself that informed people about the verses not being part of the Quran. The abrogated verses that still remain are some things by some scholars not regarded as abrogation, just different revelations, like Surah 2 verse 256. There is no compulsion in religion. Then later on for defense, Surah 9 verse 5 talking about killing polytheists. Some scholars says it might not be abrogation but just different situations.
Any reference you can refute with, let us say you are Fifi, and the breastfeeding for 10-time adult is Christian Prince. Where is the 10-time breastfeeding in the Quran?
I can't hear you. I've been disconnected apparently. Can you
Guys,
repeat that?
am I heard? You hear me?
No, like my Wi-Fi is bad. My Wi-Fi is bad.
All right. So let us say you are Fifi and you've been asked by Christian Prince, where is the 10-time breastfeeding for adult verses? Where they go? What you say?
I say let's check the recording and see what my. Okay. You've been recording this, right?
Yeah, all of this is recorded.
Good. Now go back and see what my claim was.
I made a claim. I just said to you, I am repeating. Where is the 10-time?
I know.
Where is the 10-time? Where is the 10-time breastfeeding for adult? Where we can find them?
About the verses of the adult breastfeeding that was in the Quran, which was narrated in Sunan Ibn Majah and Sahih Muslim. Yahya bin Yahya told us, I read to Malik on the authority of Abdullah bin Abi Bakr on the authority of Umrah on the authority of Aisha, that she said, among what was revealed in the Quran were 10 known breastfeedings that make marriage forbidden. Then they were abrogated by 5 known breastfeedings, and the Messenger of God, may God bless him and grant him peace, died while they were among what was recited in the Quran. Sahih Muslim with al-Nawawi's explanation. Her saying, then the Messenger of God, may God bless him and grant him peace, passed away while they were in the midst of what was being recited, is with the Dhamma of the Yah, of reeds, and its meaning is that the abrogation of 5 breastfeedings was revealed very late, so much so that he, may God bless him and grant him peace, passed away while some people were reciting 5 breastfeedings and making them a recited Quran because the abrogation had not reached him due to the closeness of his time. So when the abrogation reached them, after that, they went back on that and agreed that this should not be recited. Abrogation is of 3 types. The first is that which has its ruling and recitation abrogated, such as 10 breastfeedings. The second is that which has its recitation abrogated but not its ruling, such as 5 breastfeedings and the old man and old woman, if they commit adultery, stone them both. The third is that which has its ruling abrogated but its recitation remains, and this is the most common, including the statement of the Most High, and those of you who die and leave wives behind them, a bequest. For their wives the verse, and God knows best. The scholars differed regarding the amount by which the ruling of breastfeeding is established. Aisha, al-Shafi'i and his companions said, it is not established with less than 5 breastfeedings. The majority of scholars said, it is established with 1 breastfeeding. Narrated by Ibn al-Mundir on the authority of Ali, Ibn Masud, Ibn Umar, Ibn Abbas, Atta, Tawas, Ibn al-Musayyib, al-Hassan, Maqal, al-Zuri, Qatada, al-Hakam, Hamad, Malik, al-Azai, al-Tawri and Abu Hanifa, may Allah be pleased with them. Abu Thar, Abu Ubaid, Ibn al-Mundir and Dawud said, it is established with 3 breastfeedings and it is not established with less. As for al-Shafi'i and those who agreed with him, they took the hadith of Aisha, 5 known breastfeedings, and Malik took the words of God Almighty, and your mothers who breastfed you, and he did not mention a number, and Dawud took the meaning of the hadith, 1 or 2 sucks do not make a child forbidden, and he said, it explains the Quran. The followers of al-Shafi'i objected. The companions of Malik objected. The Shafi'is objected to the Malikis with the hadith of 1 suck and 2 sucks, and they responded to it with false answers that should not be mentioned, but we point them out for fear of being deceived by them. Among them is that some of them claimed that it was abrogated, and this is false and cannot be proven by a mere claim. Among them is that some of them claimed that it was attributed to Aisha, and this is a grave mistake. Rather, Muslim and others have mentioned it through authentic chains of transmission, with a chain of transmission traceable back to the Prophet, on the authority of Aisha and al-Fadl. Some of them have claimed that it is confused, and this is a clear mistake and a bold attempt to reject the Sunnah based on mere whims and to weaken its authenticity in order to support the schools of thought. There are many well-known hadiths stipulating the number, and the correct view is to stipulate it. Judge Iyad said, some people have deviated and said, breastfeeding is not proven except by 10 breastfeedings, and this is false and rejected, and God knows best.
You're finished. You're finished. You're finished. You're finished. Wallahi, you're finished. Wallahi, you're finished.